Morning, mighty historians. Mr. Holland here on what is Sunday, May 31st. Welcome to the end of the month. This is an unplanned YouTube. I had imagined this next week, which is finals week, to do one last YouTube um, for you that I would put out on Friday, and just let's wrap up the year. We'll say our goodbyes, maybe a few tears. I think there were a few tears there. But what has kind of devolved over the last few days is something I wanted to talk about, and we would have discussed this in class as a current event. And we would have discussed, we would have conversed, we would have shared our views. We would not have dialogued, which is just a one person talking the whole time. It would be a discussion where we get everybody's viewpoints. So my goal here today is not to dialogue, but to give you some things, some kind of food for thought, some things to think about. But first, there was one super cool thing that I got really excited about this week, and that was the NASA SpaceX rocket that was sending two of our astronauts, to space on an American spacecraft, which had not been done in 10 years. I think it was about 10 years ago when the government at the time decided to cancel the space shuttle program. And I can't tell you how excited I was on, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, when we were officially going to send American astronauts back into space on our own vehicles. Americans had been to space using Russian space vehicles, but this was American. So it was a unique opportunity for us, and it was canceled just about 15 minutes before during the week, and then yesterday on Saturday it was successfully launched into space, and those two astronauts, I believe, were going to the International Space Station. And so it was just very cool. If you missed it, go back, watch it. Those are the great, exciting moments of our American story. And that was overshadowed by a different story, a different history, and that was the story of George Floyd, the problems that we've had after George Floyd was very clearly mistreated. And just trying to figure out how to say it. I'll just say very mistreated by the police. And I'll say this: we live in a very imperfect system. The only difference between us and the other governmental systems and governmental countries, or countries around the world, is while they're all imperfect. There never has been a perfect government. So they're all imperfect. The only thing is ours is the best. And I don't say that because we're American. It really is the best system. And very clearly, justice was not given by the police to George Floyd. That's very clear. Now, I will say, we have to take a step back, take a deep breath, let those who are in charge look at the evidence. Okay, and I mean, we have the evidence. You've seen those videos. There might be other evidence, though, that we don't know about. So we have to let them do their job, and then we can react. And I wanted to talk, just give you some food for thought in those terms. And these would be things that I would have shared with you in class that we would discuss and converse about. And so, their emotions are high right now. And that's where I really think, let's take a step back. Okay, let's take a step back. Take a deep breath. Okay, let the people do their jobs, and I've watched some of those um, um, news briefs, I guess, where the public officials have been talking, and I think they want justice just as much as we all do, because that wasn't a good situation. Um, and so I wanted to bring out just a couple things to you and read a couple quotes, and I am missing one, so give me a moment. But I wanted to go back. This has been an issue for years in America, and um, it amazes me that we have not, like after decades, why is this has not been handled well? Um, and the inner cities have issues that we don't have in the suburbs. Um, Give me a moment. Okay. And I think those it amazes me because we keep voting for the same people who, I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to get political. Um, I would like you, and I'm going to post this up on YouTube, and post these links. I would like you to take a moment, because one of the premier civil rights leaders uh, is very clearly Martin Luther King Jr., who was assassinated. But he gave a speech, and you've all heard this. Um, and I want to get it right. I don't want to mess it up. Part of his speech, and we're going to read another part. And I will put the full speech, him with the full speech, so that you can read what he says, because he says a lot of truth from 1963 that very clearly we're not getting and we're not living. And so he says, and I think it's a very poignant. He says, you've all heard it before. We've done this quote in class. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And we still live in a world where we just look at the outside, but what we need to look at is what's inside. And that's what Martin Luther King Jr. is saying. Look deep. Look at someone's soul before you judge them. Okay, this is just and I don't know if you've ever looked at some of those anatomy books, and they show the muscles and all of that. You can't tell what race someone is based on if you're just removing the skin and seeing what's underneath. You can't tell, because it doesn't matter. I mean, it matters, but at the end of the day, it doesn't. Because what's in here, that's what matters. Who you are is what matters. So I want to read a quote from him, and I think he really brings up a good thing that we need to hear, because he's going to share with us how we act, how we should act when we're angry, when something doesn't go our way. Because what we're seeing, I think you'd be appalled at how we have reacted to this present circumstance. And so let me read it. He says, and this is a part of his speech, I Have a Dream speech from 1963. Okay, so these are his words. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to post a link with him and his speech. But he says in it, and it's a great speech, all of it. He says, we must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. I'm going to say those 2 words again: dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protests to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force. Get this keyword, with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to distrust all white people, for many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. Their destiny is tied up with our destiny. We are an American people. We are an American people of many colors, of many races. Just take one of our classes, whichever class you are in. None of you in that class are the same. Even if you were all the same color of skin, you all have different personalities. You bring different talents, different skills to the playing field. You're all unique. And together, we can defeat what is presently happening. But I love what he says. Struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We have to conduct ourselves in a way to get things done. And Martin Luther King greatly believed in nonviolence. It was very much a part of his mission in the civil rights movement was nonviolence. And he would probably say, yeah, go out and protest. Go share your thoughts. But he would disagree so very strongly, I think, with the rioting, with the looting, and it really doesn't help the cause. It doesn't. And I always say this, and I don't know if there's no reason you should know this, but I'm co-department chair of the history department. So what that means is, Miss Pavletic and I, we work together for the good of the history department. And I have always felt that if there's a problem, and I've told certain teachers that if there's a problem, don't come to me with the problem. Come to me with a solution. We can talk about a problem to no end, but what we need are some solutions. So when I have an issue that comes up at school, maybe with a department member, maybe there's a need in our department or a need at our school, I don't go to Mr. Crawford and complain and talk and talk and talk and talk and never get anything done. I might do that for a little bit, but I come to him with a solution. Okay, so here's our problem. Here's our solution. Let's talk it out. And that's exactly what we need to do. Because very clearly there are injustices in certain communities, but nobody's willing to talk it out. And rioting and burning things and not following the law and stealing things and looting and destroying personal property is not a solution. This is not going to get anyone anywhere. And I'm going to be honest, I find it disgusting. This would be like you coming into class and just doing your business and just, pushing desks over and ripping things off the wall and that doesn't bring any help to us. But if you come to class with an issue, let's talk about it. Okay, share your views, and then let's work on it. Let's get that solution made, because there are solutions out there. It's called compromise. You and I have to work together. Okay, our two parties, Republicans and Democrats, have to work together. No one party is going to do the best job they can. They have to work together because there are multiple views in our world. And that's the beauty of the country that we live in. It's imperfect at best. But it's those imperfections where we can actually live together. And we're not doing it. So I leave you with this. Actually, two things. So Gandhi, who very much influenced the civil rights movement, under Martin Luther King in the 60s said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." And it reminds me of that old golden rule, which we don't hear very often. We need to hear it a little bit more, but treat others the way you want to be treated. I think some of us would be very surprised at if we were to treat you like you treat others. So maybe think about that. Treat others the way you want to be treated. So let's take that thought. Be the change. I'm going to go back just so I don't misread it. Be the change you want to see in the world. Take that to heart. Put that deep, deep, deep into your soul. So, Mighty Historians, on this Sunday, let's go make the world a better place. One person, one neighbor, one community, one problem at a time. We can do it. But it takes most of us, to put ourselves and our own opinions aside so that we can work together. So you guys go have a great week. We will be doing a Zoom on, I think, Wednesday. I've got to send out one last. Everyone that Zoomed on Friday wanted another one. So plan on that. And then we'll have one final YouTube. It's been a pleasure. So go enjoy the week. You got questions, you got concerns, you want to share your thoughts, you can email me and I will email you back. You guys have a great weekend. See you later.